Brought down. Header towards goal now. And it has gone in. On goal. Fate is a cruel. Fate is a cruel mistress.
So the reggaeboyz squeaked out a 1-1 draw at the death. Here's my key takeaways from their last friendly match against Trinidad. Starting with the first point, identity crisis. As with usual with these videos, we'll start right away with the lineup. Jamali Wade kept his spot in goal. Ming was there. Cummins, Kin, Ainsworth, McCullough, Guthrie, Anglin, Green, Thomas, and Calvin started the game. Now, returning to my last video where we spoke about their first match down in Montego Bay, I said that, the team only had 2 days of training, so it's not that surprising that they didn't look so fluid on the ball and had issues connecting passes. Well, I would say for this game, they started, a little better on the ball. I believe they started a bit brighter than Trinidad and Tobago, and they were actually looking to try to build up the play more than just kicking the ball over the top. But that only lasted roughly 20 minutes. By then, Trinidad started to press a lot more, and then they upped the tempo and the aggression, and all of a sudden, the reggaeboyz were thrown off their game. Trinidad did well to up their backline and squeeze us into our own half, and we had difficulty trying to pick up our own players in between the lines, especially in midfield, just because of how well the men in white were just man-marking each player in yellow. It also was a problem because you expect your number 10, which was Guthrie on the night, to try to come into those pockets to try to dictate the play, but most of the time I actually see him going high along Chanel Thomas instead of trying to come into the space and collect the ball. So that was a big disconnect right there. We will see a lot of sideways passes between Anglin and McCullough, for instance, and when they're trying to go forward, they just have to loop the ball and try to find one of the wingers on either side. Mind you, it was nowhere near as bad as the first half in the first game. We did try to keep the ball more on the ground in this half, but it was still discouraging to see that we just couldn't necessarily connect enough passes in the final third. The other big issue I was having with the team, again, especially in the first half, it is that it seemed our wingers and fullbacks were really looking to take on their men when they have them one-on-one. Green was a slight exception. Green actually had a very decent first half, I believe, and few occasions he did try to take on his man, and he did manage to beat them one time and get in a good shot, but he managed to go wide. But I was sitting pretty close to Steve McLaren in the stands, and he was shouting from very far out, keep asking Green to push higher, press higher, as well as he want Green to continuously go at his defenders and not try to hold back. Ainsworth also started the game very well, but he faded towards the end of the half, and again I could hear the coach keep asking Ainsworth and Ming to try to push the tempo, try to overlap and create some space down each flank. But just like the first game, the substitutes came in the second half and brought some energy and quickened the tempo. Once again, it was Demario Phillips who led the way in that aspect, and while they did well to do more running and finally match the physicality of the Trinidadians, we actually saw less build-up play and more kick-and-run football in that second half. Sure, we sprung some balls over the top and got our players in great positions, but their first touch on almost every occasion absolutely let them down. But I will give them credit, they did fight towards the very end and got that equalizer right at the death. But football is not just about attacking. We can actually say the defense did fairly well in this game. We didn't see much of the defense because Trinidad wasn't so attacking in the first game, but they definitely came to the party at the Anthony Sporting Complex. In fact, if they had a little bit more composure in the final third, Trinidad probably would have scored at least one more goal before the halftime whistle. I thought Cummins was excellent in that first half, and he clearly works well with Richard King there at the back. But it was still fairly disappointing how we conceded the goal. It was a string of corners that came in, and we just have severe issues dealing with it properly. And then of course Triminum came in at the back post towards the third corner and got the goal. But overall, I think the defense did fairly well. Second point now, striking problems. Okay, we're going to go all the way back to the attack once again. Look, we're all aware of the unfortunate accident that happened to our main centre forward, Mikel Antonio. And while Shamar Nicholas is more than good enough to start for Jamaica in important matches, they will have a big issue in terms of the depth that comes right after him. And as the coach stated before, one of the reasons for a camp like this is to possibly find players that can come in handy to help fill out some of the necessary positions. But we kind of fail in that department. While Chanel Thomas did okay in both matches, he didn't do enough to book his tickets and cement his spot in that centre forward player pool, in my opinion. The same could be said for Warner Brown. He brought a lot of running, a lot of fight, good pressing, but again, he especially had issues with his back towards the goal, holding onto the ball, and his first touch gave him trouble in both matches. And you also have to wonder why we didn't see enough of Ryan Edwards to see what he can do at this level. We only scored 2 goals in our 2 matches here with Trinidad, and one of them was our own goal, so it kind of highlights the issue we have with producing centre forwards for the national team, either here or overseas. Hopefully somebody steps up in the coming months. And my final point, no standouts. So again, we have to go back to what the point of the camp was, which is to try, unearth or highlight anybody here on the island that can possibly help the quote-unquote A team going forward. And unfortunately, based on these 2 matches, in my opinion, I think we fail in that department. After these 2 games, we basically got a further confirmation of what we already knew, that there is great potential here on the island, but we don't really have any ready-made internationals here at home. The coach did say in the post-match conference that there are a few that he did like and hope to see again. He did name one, which was Daniel Green, and I can see where the coach is coming from. He does have good technical skills that is good enough to beat his man on a one-on-one, and he had a decent game in that first half. The only problem for him is that the wing area is the one place on the field that the reggaeboyz already have a strong set of players already ahead of him. This is why it can also be a big issue for the likes of Jamal or Calvin, who I felt saw a decline in his stocks over these last 2 matches. Also, there was obviously a big need for fullbacks, and while we saw flashes from the likes of Ming and Irvin, Ainsworth and Rabina Gordon, I don't think any of your performances really showed in the coach's ear to say pick me going forward. But how about that dreaded midfield I always had an issue with? Anglin did decent, and I think he will get a call back if there's an emergency, while Demar Phillips, who I believe is one of the few players that gave himself a good shot out of this camp to get a call back. But purely based on these 2 matches, I would not be surprised we don't see any new faces for the upcoming matches against St. Vincent. But anyway guys, that's all I got here on this look back on the second match against Trinidad and Tobago. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought of the second game and the prospects of these players to try, sneak their way into the reggaeboyz A squad. Also, let me know in the comment section below if you also got a chance to watch the game on the JFF Live. Was it a better experience for you? I didn't get a chance to see it since I was at the stadium, so let me know if things improve and if you are now okay spending your $9.99 going forward. But otherwise, please like, subscribe and share as we look to keep you up to date on all things with the reggaeboyz Show 2025. Otherwise, for great reggaeboyz content, you're already at the right place. Jump Hill Fun. YouTube, pick up yourself.